All right, guys, I'm back. I apologize for the disruption in my routine. I haven't been able to do these videos like I wanted to because I was traveling for Thanksgiving, but I'm recording this late on Monday night. The U.S. has their big game against Iran tomorrow, fighting for their World Cup lives. My last video was cut off short, and I wanted to add a few additional thoughts to that U.S. England game and also address some questions that have come up. And so I know that I've got some soccer fans listening to this, watching this. I also have newbies, casual fans, people that only start to look in the direction of soccer during World Cup times, and they have a little, they have questions, and I want to be that. I try to be that introductory, that gateway to people that want to learn about the sport and want to get into the sport, maybe don't quite understand it. So I've had more than one person ask me about ties, like, or why are they a big deal? Are they valuable? Do they mean anything? Should a team get excited about it? Is it good or bad? Or I mean, why are there ties in the sport? And how can you get excited about a tie? And I want to address that a little bit and to kind of maybe explain some of the dynamics at play, but also understand that U.S. England was the big game Black Friday, middle of the afternoon on broadcast television. U.S. versus England World Cup. The table was set for just a huge television audience. This was going to be the moment, the game of this World Cup for American audiences. And it largely was. It set a record for television viewing for World Cup matches. It averaged, if counting both English language and Spanish language broadcast, it was averaging over 20 million viewers. The Fox English language broadcast was averaged over 15 million and peaked at 19 million. It was an extraordinary television audience. And the United States had an extraordinary performance, but it ended 0-0. That's not the scoreline you want in order to win over a bunch of new fans. I understand that. And a bunch of people that don't quite understand the sport or don't have an appreciation for perhaps the quality of the United States opponents that day. Like they were playing England. So what? The names don't mean anything. The players don't mean anything. Harry Kane is an unknown person, for example, to most of American sports fans. So they're not impressed with a 0-0 draw. And the fact is, the United States had a great game. But the 0-0 scoreline, I feel like there's a missed opportunity maybe to make new fans. But anyway, I wanted to explain why or how a tie can sometimes feel like a win, sometimes feel like a loss, and why it seemed like a good result for the United States last Friday. So largely, as far as the emotion of a game ending in a tie, whether you're coming away feeling positive or negative about it, has largely to do with the perception of the teams. Like generally, if an underdog ends up with a tie or a draw, they're happy with it, and the favored team is upset. So it's really kind of that simple. Against Wales, the United States was favored, so that draw feels like a loss. Against England, where we were the underdogs, that tie feels like a win. It's kind of at one level, it's kind of that simple. The other thing has to do with the nature of how the result comes about. So in addition to us being the favorite team against Wales, we had the lead. We dominated the first half. We had the lead for almost an hour out of the game, and the second half was a story of Wales trying to battle back and come from behind, and then they did. The late stages of the match, thanks to a mistake on our part, we give up the equalizer. So we gave up that late tying goal to a team that we were supposed to beat. So that's a case of where that tie can feel like a draw. Where that tie can feel like a loss. And the flip side of that is a game where you're the underdog and you end up tying, or in the course of achieving that tie, you're able to make a few huge saves to stop the other team from scoring, or you were worried about how your team was going to perform or overcome adversity, and they come out with a strong performance. Sometimes just seeing an inspiring performance against a favored team, even if it ends in a draw, you come away feeling great about your team. And that's kind of what happened with England, is they were the favored team, and we played inspired soccer. We had a strong performance, and so we're encouraged by that performance, and we feel great about it. Now, beyond just emotion, there are like mathematical reasons why ties have value, especially in tournament play. And I'll get into that in just a second. But first, I want to speak a little bit more on why we should be excited for the United States and their 0-0 match against England. So, number one, they were the favorite team, we were the underdog. It's that simple. But let me explain it to those that might not know. England is ranked number 5 in the world. They're one of the very best teams, and they're among the favorite to win this whole tournament. In addition, and by the way, in the last World Cup, they were in the Final Four. They made it to the semifinals. This is a very, very strong team. They have one of the strongest attacks in the world, including one of the strongest attackers in the world in Harry Kane. And we were able to hold Harry Kane to 0 shots on goal. Now, this is with a defense that has been decimated by injury, especially at center back. We are playing at center back. We have an MLS player in Walker Zimmerman, and we have a 35-year-old who's considered by many to be too slow, and the international games passed him by, and he did not participate in any of the qualifying matches last year. It's been over a year not even being called into camp, and then makes the roster out of the blue and has started every match. And I'm talking about Tim Ream. So he plays in the Premier League. Okay, he faces Harry Kane and Raheem Sterling and Jude Bellingham, not Jude Bellingham, but all these other players, Saka, all these other players all the time. And so we played them. And guess what? We held Harry Kane to 0 shots on goal, and we contained the English attack. And not only that, but we didn't just play a defensive game, right? If we didn't play a cynical, like just packing in on defense and just try to play to a 0-0 score, that wouldn't be much that's not inspiring soccer. That's not much to get excited about. But we didn't do that. We came out, we played. We didn't necessarily have the majority of the time of possession, but we did dictate the match in large stretches, especially in the second half. We took it to England. We were trying to score. We were controlling that match. We had the better play. So I was saying Friday I gave you my hot take, but I've been able to look at some of the deeper numbers and hear some of the analysis. And the reality is the United States played a strong game, and the deeper numbers show it, and the deeper stats show it, and the heat maps and all those kind of things. But we took it to England. Like, their midfield is valued at over $200 million. Like, you've got Jude Bellingham, who's about to make a move from Germany's Bundesliga to La Liga in Spain for like $100 million transfer. I mean, these guys are some of the biggest names in the world. They are pulling down 9 figures. And we played Yunus Musa, 19-year-old, played Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie, and we won the midfield. And Yunus Musa at 19 years old shut down Jude Bellingham, just completely owned him. He took him out of the match, to the point that in England's third match that they're going to play tomorrow, Bellingham's sitting down and they're playing Henderson. So they're making a sub at that position because of how completely Yunus Musa, 19-year-old American, dominated him last Friday. So this is, we were able to neutralize one of the world's greatest attacking teams. We completely eliminated some of the greatest attacking players from the match. We controlled midfield. We took it to England. We were playing on the front foot, and we had opportunities to score. We were doing our best to win. Pulisic had the shot, went off the woodwork. McKennie was set up for a moment to, he had an easy look on goal. Unfortunately, he missed it. But we played well enough to beat England. So we didn't want a tie. We didn't want it. The 1 point we get from the tie actually doesn't help us very much in how this tournament's working and our chances of advancing. Whether we tied or won, whether we tied or lost, we were going to need to win the next game. We were still needed to win it. So we're still in that position. We're in a must-win situation in our third match. So the tie doesn't necessarily help us very much, except it inspires us. Like, we know that we're good. We know that we're good enough to beat the number 5 team in the world. So that should give us a tremendous amount of confidence. So that performance was awesome. We dominated England. And if you knew the players, if you knew their pedigree, if you knew their value, if you knew what they did for the greatest, I mean, almost everybody on that team plays in the Premier League, the best league in the world. And we not only held our own, but we controlled the match. And if not for a few unlucky moments, we could have won. We should have won. So we should take pride, even though it's only 0-0. You need to understand what an incredible performance that was. And a lot of credit goes to Greg Berhalter. He got his tactics right. So, but here's the other thing. To answer more about ties, the value of ties. In league play, you get 3 points for a win, you get 1 point for a tie. So there is value in the league standings. There's value in earning a draw. There's no need to play for overtime and to find a definite winner when you're playing a full regular season schedule for a league. So the fact that it is worth a point does have an effect on league standings. So it's a legitimate result. If you'll hear in soccer, a team earning a result, that means they earn either a tie or a win. If they need a result, that means they just need to not lose. In tournament play, in an elimination tournament, you can't have a tie. You must play to a winner. Now that usually means play in an overtime period, 2 short overtime periods. And then it comes down to penalty kicks, so you can have a winner. And that's going to happen in this World Cup. The group stage will soon be over and we'll be in elimination rounds and there won't be any more ties. Okay, but in the group stage, and this happens in a lot of other tournaments, but it's certainly the case of the World Cup, the group stage you can have ties because you're playing a round robin within your group and you get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie. And so based on the dynamics of what happens in the first couple of matches, you end up in a situation where a tie can literally be good enough, can be as good as a win. There is value in a tie because, for example, the United States, they're in a situation right now where they must win their game against Iran on Tuesday. And a draw is good enough for Iran. If the game ends in a tie, Iran advances in the tournament. They go to the next round of the World Cup. So do ties have value? Do they mean anything? Of course they do, or they can, depending on your situation. So for Iran, a tie is just as good as a win on Tuesday because they get to advance and the United States will be eliminated. So the value of ties depends if you're in league play or if you're in a tournament, but that's the situation we're in. So I just wanted to use that to segue into what's at stake for the United States. What's at stake is everything. I explained that before. You must win. The United States must win. A draw does you no good. We can win, but it's going to be very, very difficult. Iran's going to make it very, very hard. They're going to pack all guys in on defense and do everything they can to play for a 0-0 tie. And the United States hasn't been good at breaking down defenses like that or creating very many scoring opportunities, even in the best case scenario. So this could very likely be Berhalter's last match with the United States. Everything about the last 8 years, especially the last 4 years with Berhalter in charge, is going to come down to tomorrow. It's going to come down to Tuesday's match against Iran. This is what everything in the program has been building towards. If we don't advance in the tournament, you have to call this tournament a failure. And there's really, for the talent we have, there's not much excuse for that. Now, I do like the way we performed, and I do think Berhalter has largely done a good job in this tournament. I would nitpick how he's handled substitutions, but other than that, I would say he's had his team ready to play. Unfortunately, both games have ended in draws, and now we're in a desperate situation. So we look fantastic. We're playing with confidence. Guys are healthy. We have no yellow card suspensions. There is simply no margin for error. And we're going to have to find a way to break down Iran's defense. Now, what would be best as far as providing us an entertaining match to watch is if somehow the United States can score early and get an early 1-0 lead. If that happens, Iran will have to come out of their defensive shell. The game will really open up, and it has the potential to just be bonkers. The worst thing that can happen is if we give up a counterattack and Iran scores early. Now we're losing, and even a tie does us no good. And that would just put us in a terrible situation. that will be very difficult to come out of. So unfortunately, as good as we are, and as well as we've played, we now have no margin for error, and we're against a team that that's good at doing this sort of thing. And this is obviously going to play to their strengths, and this type of situation favors the underdog. So anyway, I think that about wraps it up. It's very simple. The United States must win. This entire tournament and the last few years of this program has ultimately failed if we don't advance tomorrow. I still will not quit believing in this group of players. And whenever our run is over, whether it's tomorrow, Tuesday, or sometime in a later round, I will have more to say about this group and the future of this program. But right now, this is all you need to know. Ties do have value. They have emotional context depending on the situation, and they also have mathematical value, and also in not only in league play but in tournaments, and we see that now. So tomorrow, a tie is as good as a win for Iran, but the United States has everything on the line, and they're going to have to push forward. They can't push too far forward. They're going to give up a counterattack. So it's going to be a delicate balancing act, but they've got to come out strong. They've got to come out confident. It's going to be interesting to see what changes Berhalter makes to his starting 11, if any. But anyway, I hope that you'll find a way to watch this game. It comes on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Fox. It is available on demand on the Fox app in the evenings. And anyway, watch some soccer with me, and let's pull for a United States win and see if we can get to the next round and keep this World Cup going. So until then, I'll talk to you next time.